Nintendo's legal department is not having a good week, ladies and gentlemen, and this time it is way more serious. This morning, the United States Patent Office has officially set its sights on Nintendo, and the latest update is honestly shocking. It's shocking not only because of how bad it is for Nintendo, but also because of how rare it is for them to take measures like this. But the craziest part about this latest decision is that this may have stemmed from you guys, the gamers. Like literally you guys watching these videos has actually helped spread the word about Nintendo's insane legal overreaching, and the backlash has gotten so big that it actually reached the United States Patent Office. So today we're going to dig into what the latest update is from the US Patent Office and what it means for Palworld. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now real quick, I just want to thank everybody who's been liking the videos lately and using the new hype feature, because as you're going to see in this video, spreading the word about Nintendo's insane legal tactics is actually working, and it's all thanks to you guys. Okay, let's jump right in here and hope that Tiger doesn't destroy everything behind me, because she is not supposed to be on the bookshelf. But anyway, huge blow to Nintendo. Head of US Patent Office takes rare step to order re-examination of summon sub character and let it fight in one of two modes patent. This was just posted by Florian Mueller over on Games Fray. So here's what just happened. In a stunning development attributable to the public outrage that started here on Games Fray and reflecting concern over implications for the reputation of the US patent system as a whole, US Patent Office Director John Squires has personally ordered, at his own initiative, his organization to take another look at Nintendo's US patent number 397. The director determined that ex parte re-examination was in order because of two older published US patent applications, one of which was filed by Konami in 2002 and the other by Nintendo itself in 2019 that was further published in 2020. Either one of those prior art references, quote, teaches a player being allowed to perform a battle in a manual mode and in a simpler automatic mode, end quote. This may be the first such order in more than a decade. That's right, folks, this might be the first time in over a decade that the US Patent Office Director has personally ordered a re-examination of a patent. You heard me right. The backlash that started on Games Fray and has spread throughout social media, through articles, through hundreds of YouTube videos, and from millions of you guys watching, the backlash has gotten so big that the actual director of the US Patent Office is doing something that, according to them, this is the first time in over a decade that we're actually seeing a re-examination like this. And you know Nintendo is furious that the backlash is actually working. Let's continue to read on and see what the impact is. A re-examination order is not a revocation order, which would not be possible in this form anyway, apparently, and even director initiated re-examinations can result in a patent being upheld, but it is highly likely that the United States Patent Office will revoke Nintendo's 397 patent. The two prior art references underlying the director initiated order for ex parte re-examination address the element based on which the original examiner thought that Nintendo's patent was distinguishable from the prior art. So what they're saying here is that the backlash got so big that the director of the patent office heard about it, and then they were like, well, wait a minute, there's these two other patents, one of which from Konami in 2002, another from Nintendo themselves in 2019. If we have these other patents that already exist, then wouldn't it be the case that Nintendo's new patent number 397 is actually not distinguishable from that prior art, in which case maybe they're going to re-examine it and just throw it in the garbage. So here's what happens next. Nintendo has 2 months to respond to the order, and if any third parties wish to up the ante for Nintendo further, though it does not appear to be necessary, they can bring their own challenges and present, for example, prior art relating to games rather than patent documents. And I think this was the Achilles heel when it came to the most recent report that we did covering Japan's patent office rejecting Nintendo's application for another patent relevant to Palworld, because real quick, if you guys missed that video, basically the patent office in Japan is now actually looking at real games, real actual examples that are on the market, and they're looking at that and saying, okay, well, clearly these games have existed. I mean, we talked about Monster Hunter 4, like these games have existed for over a decade now with some of these mechanics that Nintendo is claiming to have recently invented, right? And so it's possible that a third party may jump in here and also provide more prior art games to bolster this argument. But honestly, honestly, you know, let me be clear, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal professional, nothing in this video is legal advice, okay, but I feel like if the literal director of the patent office is setting its sights on Nintendo and is re-examining this with already having two prior art examples of existing patents, then I feel like they're already cooked perhaps. But yeah, and you know Nintendo's lawyers are going to respond, you know they're going to do it. I mean, the legal department at Nintendo is insane, and later in the video we'll actually cover another lawsuit that Nintendo is involved in, so stay tuned for that. But let's take a look at the wider ramifications here. Okay, this development further undermines the credibility of Nintendo's patent assertions against Palworld. Man, I could not have said that better myself. This is now the second case in as many weeks where a patent or patent application related to the patents Nintendo is asserting against Palworld is viewed skeptically by one of the world's top 4 patent offices, the other two big ones being Europe and China, of course. But get this, the last confirmed director initiated order of an ex parte re-examination was in 2012. The all-time number of such orders technically changed in 2019, but based on our research, that fact was due to a change in counting methods. So the actual last time that this occurred was 2012. So it's been over a decade since we've seen something like this, which again, I feel like probably means that this is pretty serious. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a goofball on YouTube. I don't know anything about the legal system, but I mean, like, if something like this is that rare, then you know Nintendo did not see this coming. They are being blindsided by this. They thought they were in the clear already, and as it turns out, the backlash got so big around this, and the director was like, oh, actually, wait a minute, hey, wait, everyone's right, this is actually BS, like, this is so stupid, let's re-examine this, right? And this is my favorite part. This is what I said at the beginning of the video. The article goes on to say, the only plausible explanation is that the United States Patent Office's leadership became aware of all the negative publicity surrounding the grant of patent number 397 and wanted to correct this mistake. No system is perfect, which is why there must be processes in place to fix issues. That is what the US Patent Office is demonstrating. So I wasn't being hyperbolic when I said earlier that, like, the online backlash, literally you guys watching these videos or reading these articles or spreading the news on social media, right? Like, it's actually working, which is it's rare, right? It is genuinely rare that online backlash actually has a real world impact. I mean, let's be honest, the Switch 2, for example, has had tons of backlash with game key cards and like bricked consoles and all sorts of other things, and yet it just surpassed 10 million in sales. So really the online backlash hasn't done that much. We'll talk about the Switch 2 sales in just a minute because there is actually a big update for that. But in this one specific case, it actually looks like all of the negative publicity, which started with the Games Fray, so huge shout out to them. Of course, all their articles are always linked in the description. It actually seems like it's working. The article goes on to say what makes this initiative even more remarkable is the fact that since Director Squires was appointed by President Trump and confirmed by the US Senate, all of his other measures made it harder to challenge patents. The first time he intervened with respect to a particular patent, he actually revived a canceled patent, declaring expert testimony unreliable. So I think what Gamesfray is trying to say here is that this patent office director is typically against challenging patents, and even still he is personally issuing a re-examination order, which again makes this a really big deal and probably will not end well for Nintendo. Gamesfray goes on to say, normally ex parte re-examinations result from a petition by a company that has to defend against a patent, has been threatened, or anticipates litigation. Here, however, there was no other company involved. The US Patent Office director himself took the initiative. They go on to say, to be clear, Nintendo does obtain patents on genuine technical inventions, which are typically hardware patents, but it has also sought to abuse the patent system by monopolizing game rules. Nintendo regularly has to try to invalidate other companies' patents. And here's what Gamesfray thinks about this whole situation. They said, this order by Director Squires is good news for the US patent system and for that small company named Pocket Pair that is forced to defend against Nintendo's patent assertions. By extension, it validates Gamesfray's concerns over the grant of this patent and the criticism voiced voiced by others who subsequently voiced similar opinions. That is you guys on social media. That is me making these videos. And so in the last week or two, Nintendo's legal department has taken two massive blows. First, in the United States, which is a very serious one. Obviously, they're not currently suing Palworld in the United States or claiming patent infringement or anything like that, but if they were considering doing it, they're going to have a harder time now, because now the director of the patent office himself is aware of Nintendo, what their legal strategy is, and how they are trying to strong arm other gaming companies with these insane patents that make no sense. And then the other one is in Japan. Again, I just made a video about this, but one of their patent applications was rejected by the Japan Patent Office, which wasn't a patent directly used against Palworld, but it was in the same family, which implies that other patents within that family may also be rejected as well. Let's see what Reddit has to say about this. I'm sure they're going to be super excited. This was posted over on PC Gaming 6 hours ago. Top comment is good Nintendo. That's pretty much exactly what I thought the top comment would be. Someone responds, I would love to see them face some repercussions for patent abuse, but it's not just Nintendo. There's more blatant examples of, quote, this is an obvious solution to a common problem that doesn't warrant any patent protection in this industry. The obvious solution would be game mechanics can't be patented. Person says, remember when Bandai Namco patented minigames during loading times? Seems that patent ran out in 2015. Maybe devs should bring it back for some modern games. That's actually crazy. I didn't even know they did that. But now that I think about it, didn't like some of the old Dragon Ball Z games have like little mini games that you could do in the loading screens? That was always super cool. That's like a core memory I completely forgot about. So in a response to this person saying the obvious solution would be game mechanics can't be patented, this person goes on to say that's really what should happen. Movie filming techniques can't be patented. Why are games different? If someone makes a dolly zoom in a game, they can patent it if they can find that no other game has done it, despite it being in film for more than half a century. Patent attorney here, that's not true. It would be considered obvious unless there's a particular difficulty in implementing it into a game. So yeah, I don't actually know what's going on there, but I mean, let's be real here. We've seen Nintendo patent things that already exist in games anyway. They basically just issue the patent, and if the patent office can't figure out if it's legit or not, they pass it and then they just wait for a challenge, it seems like. I mean, again, I'm not a legal professional, but that's what it seems like is going on here. The solution should be you abuse the system, all your patents become public domain. I mean, absolutely based, am I right? I don't know if we should go that far, but like definitely think that there should be some repercussion, right? This person says, hope they lose the Pocket Pair lawsuit, so maybe Nintendo will drop their hubris, but that's wishful thinking for these filthy scammers. And this guy responds, not until the Nintendo adults stop supporting everything they do. And this is like my number one thing that I've talked about with the Pokemon videos, is that you're just not gonna get a better product until you start to vote with your wallet. It's really that simple. They're going to keep doing exactly what they've been doing, and that's it. And this guy says Nintendo will never stop being litigious. They have been for 50 years. This person says Nintendo can get when you get overly greedy, sooner or later there will be consequences. Holy shit, we are going into the good ending. This person says this seems reasonable. Prior art references implies their more recent patents doesn't make a novel step to improve upon previous patents which have inventions that are similar to this new one. By referencing Nintendo's own previous patent and one by Konami, the director could be saying, hey, you guys really aren't patenting anything new. It's already been referenced in the past well enough, and denying them the opportunity to reframe what's already patented in a way their lawyers could benefit from in court. And so this does really feel like, you know, a nail in the coffin if they wanted to take Palworld to court in the United States. This is kind of a preemptive stopgap on that to say, hey, look, this, you're not going to use this patent, at least that's for sure. But there was one legal dispute this week that did go in Nintendo's favor, and that was against a literal YouTuber. That's right, folks. Guy who streamed pirated Switch games and told Nintendo, quote, capitalism is cancer, must now pay $17,500. The player who pirated games like Mario and Luigi Brothership lost the lawsuit. Gosh, who could have seen that coming? This is the third lawsuit that Nintendo has won in a string of lawsuits against individual people, either for IP concerns, copyright concerns, or whatever the case might be. We reported on all of them on the channel, and everyone keeps losing to Nintendo. The first one, somebody lost because they didn't even have legal legal counsel. They just defended themselves and then lost. The other one, the dude stopped like responding, I think, and his lawyer even stopped responding. And I don't know what these people actually think is going to happen here, but Nintendo is just Exodia obliterating these small individual people in these lawsuits. Okay, let's see what the article has to say here. Jesse Kyan, sorry if I mispronounced that, faced over $1 million in potential damages when Nintendo sued him for streaming allegedly pirated copies of its games ahead of their official release. Guys, I'm not a legal professional, but I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say you probably shouldn't do that. Like, yeah, let's not do that. Okay, first of all, piracy is illegal. Okay, no matter how you feel about it, it's illegal. So first of all, probably don't do that. Okay, but also, if you're gonna do it, don't broadcast it to the whole world. Like, what are you doing? Are you serious? That is the dumbest thing I can actually imagine. Okay, so I really do struggle to feel bad for this guy now that I know that he literally just streamed it publicly. Like, what an absolute idiot. But anyway, the article goes on to say, when the company initially issued copyright strikes against his channel, he reportedly responded by trolling the Mario Maker and sharing ways to pirate its games. He has now lost that lawsuit and owes Nintendo $17,500. Honestly, he was facing over $1 million in potential damages. Maybe he had a good lawyer. That's pretty cool. I mean, good for him. It's only $17,500. Not bad when it comes to Nintendo, right? The court issues an injunction preventing defendant from infringing Nintendo's copyrighted works, including by streaming and from bringing in Switch emulators, Nintendo's proprietary cryptographic keys, or other software or technologies that circumvent Nintendo's technological protective measures, U.S. District Judge Gordon Gallagher wrote in an order issued earlier this week. But what's most remarkable is how defiant Jesse remained throughout the entire case. Quote, "Love y'all. Capitalism is cancer. My channel is being deleted for sharing gameplay videos. This is your reward," end quote. He posted on social media when he first caught the attention of Nintendo's legal department. Even after the lawsuit was filed, he continued to troll the company despite not mounting any legal defenses of his own. He even posted, quote, "Should have done more research on me. You might run a corporation. I run the streets." Wow, based Jesse, am I right? But amid all of this catastrophe, Nintendo taking a blow from the US Patent Office, Nintendo taking a blow from the Japan Patent Office, all of the negative discourse that is going to be farmed from this YouTuber being sued for 17,000, right? I know a lot of people are going to look at this and say like, oh, well, he kind of deserved it. He was literally live streaming games that weren't even out yet, so the piracy here is obvious, right? I know a lot of people won't feel bad for him, but you guys need to understand how much people hate Nintendo right now. Okay, a lot of people are going to side with this guy even if he actually did something literally illegal, just because people hate the fact that a massive corporation is going after individual people, right? Despite all of the negative backlash that's going to come from that and everything else going on, Nintendo's most recent financial data came out, and as we can see, the latest Switch 2 sales numbers are insane. There's no question that Switch 2 is the biggest console launch ever. It sold 10 million units in 4 months. Nintendo has released its latest quarterly financial report covering up to the end of September. The numbers eradicate any doubt that the Switch 2 is enjoying the most successful console launch of all time. Nintendo said its new console has sold 10.36 million units in the first 4 months between its June 5th launch date and September 30th. It's selling twice as fast as the Switch, which managed 4.7 million units over the equivalent time period. The PS5 sold 7.8 million during its first 2 quarters and took 8 months to reach 10 million sales and became Sony's fastest selling console ever, narrowly ahead of the PlayStation 4. Now, I don't love the comparison to the PS5 because, as you guys know, the PS5 came out in 2020. It was really hard to get your hands on one. People were paying insane scalper prices, and so I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare these two. But anyway, on the back of these numbers, Nintendo raised its sales forecast for Switch 2 in the current financial year from 15 million to 19 million units. This would make the Switch 2 Nintendo's biggest seller over its first year, ahead of the Game Boy Advance even, which is insane. Now, 19 million units, that means they expect to basically double what they've already sold in its entire first year, right? So we have June, July, August, September, right? Because it went through September 30th. So in 4 months it sold 10 million, which means they think in the next 8 months it's going to sell another 9 million, right? That's exactly what they just said here. That's totally possible because remember, this through September doesn't include Pokemon Legends ZA launch, which we know in Japan sold a ton of units because they were bundled together, right? And I think that we may see something similar here in the United States and around the world. We're going to see a lot of the Switch 2 Pokemon bundle fly off the shelves, and then on top of that, we are now in holiday season. We are officially in November. We've got this month and next month before all of the holidays and before Christmas. We've got Black Black Friday, we have Cyber Monday, like all of these big things are coming down the pipeline. We have big game releases, we have Hyrule Warriors coming out soon, we have Metroid Prime 4, we have Kirby Air Riders. Like there are big games still coming down the pipeline for the Switch 2. So I think maybe 19 million is possible. I personally feel like that's a little bit high. I would be surprised if it broke 19 million. I know that it's selling well objectively, obviously. I feel like the sentiment of the Switch 2, like the hype, I feel like is really dying down though, right? Like not that many people are talking about Mario Kart World, which was like the biggest game for the console. We also see that Donkey Kong Bonanza sold 3.49 million copies, which is pretty good. It's actually really good, to be honest with you, but it's like a third of what Mario Kart World sold at 9.57 million, a 92% attach rate for the console, which is insane. Obviously a large majority of those was literally just the bundle, right? It makes a ton of sense, but I don't know, I feel like all of the hype for the Switch 2 is really behind us at this point, and we're not going to see more hype for the console until we see another big game release, right? Like we need to see a 3D Mario, we need to see an actual Pokemon game, right? Legends EA was a joke, everybody knows that. I've covered that game a ton on the channel. So yeah, right now I think the Switch 2 has objectively sold super well, biggest console launch ever. It's going to continue to sell super well through holiday, but I mean, I can only speak for me, right? Like obviously the sales are what they are, the data is the data, you can't argue with the data, right? But for me, I do feel like we've kind of seen the hype die down for the Switch 2. Everyone who wanted one has one, and while there are some big games left coming out, it's no Mario, right? It's no big Pokemon. Like I think the biggest games for the year are behind us, even though a lot of people are hyped for Metroid Prime and for Kirby Air Riders. I don't know, I feel like we need a big Zelda game launch, right? Like Hyrule Warriors is a Warriors game, we need like another Breath of the Wild, right? That's going to bring the hype for the Switch 2 through the roof, but we don't have any of that coming down the pipeline, at least from what we can tell. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how the Nintendo versus Palworld situation continues to evolve over the course of 2026 and maybe even into 2027. Obviously right now the patent claims are only in Japan still, but this is a huge blow to Nintendo in the United States if they do decide to go after Pocket Pair in the United States as well, which I think a lot of, again, I'm not a legal professional, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I do think that legal experts suspect that they may attempt to do that, especially if things fall through in Japan, right? Like if Pocket Pair actually wins over there, or if the patent claims get dismissed or they settle out of court or whatever the case might be, right? If any of that happens and it doesn't go how Nintendo wants it to go, they're going to do the same thing in the United States, because the United States is one of the biggest markets for video games, and obviously Palworld is no exception there. The game was super popular here as well. So this US Patent Office taking aim at Nintendo here and ordering a re-examination, the literal director ordering the re-examination, to me feels like it is a preemptive blow to that legal strategy that they were probably gearing up to take at some point. Is this going to prevent them from taking legal action against Palworld in the United States? Probably not, right? Again, they have 2 months to respond to this, so I do think that they probably will. But again, Florian Mueller, I believe, is a legal professional, don't quote me on that, I believe that they are, but they seem to think that this is some pretty serious stuff and that this patent is definitely going to get re-examined and possibly completely shut down. And who knows, is this going to be a domino effect where further things get re-examined now that everyone is like hyper aware of how awful Nintendo's legal department actually is? It's going to be really interesting to see the developments on this. And of course, if you guys don't want to miss those developments, subscribe down below, because you might think you're subbed but you're actually not. And while you're down there, consider dropping a thumbs up. As you can see from this video, it actually does help get the word out there, and sometimes it causes real change.